Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and I have MoonGirl, Mistress of the
Hey,
Paranormal, as the beautiful co-host, as always.
thank you.
She is back from traveling and doing all her fun stuff for now.
I'm about to leave in a few days, though.
I know. But for now, I said for now. And you're watching the Paranormal Dolls. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for following us, subscribing to us, and just joining us. We have a phenomenal guest today, and she's very interesting and perfect for the month of October.
And
Her
I've been
name is
dying to
Bloody
have
Mary.
her on and meet her. Super
Dying,
excited that she's going to be here.
dying.
Yes. Yes, dying to be here.
Yes. We have been very excited about this.
Yeah.
So thank you, Bloody Mary, for coming on.
Greetings. Thank you for inviting me. Happy Halloween. And I guess this year I have to say happy Friday the 13th, which is very,
Yes.
you know, right around us now. It seems to be more popular than even Halloween this year. So,
Yes, yes, yes. I'm actually doing a couple events on Friday the 13th, which is
me too.
very interesting.
2 weddings.
There you go. There
I
you
was
go.
even married once on Friday the 13th, a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
And then again. But anyway, hi. I'm
Hi.
Bloody Mary. I am New Orleans, the Voodoo Queen, and right now I am sitting in the Voodoo Queen's chambers, which means I'm in the house of Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau.
Mm.
So I am born and raised in New Orleans. I am an initiated Voodoo Mambo and initiated Voodoo Yaya, as well as Voodoo Queen, spiritualists, and and maybe a swamp witch, but in general, I don't use the word witch. But I'm a priestess and a healer and a paranormal investigator and an author and a historian. And oh my God, I have a lot of titles if you need them. But I have an author, and I am currently writing a new book series about New Orleans swamp magic, about voodoo, and about Marie Laveau. The historic side was written many years ago. It was part of another book that I was doing, and we separated it out. And then now I had the opportunity to stay in the house for a year or two to get messages direct from the spirit of Marie Laveau herself. So that is what I'm doing, and I'm documenting it on YouTube, where I am found easily at Bloody Mary New Orleans. And it's live. It's like live seance and live ghost hunts and live interviews with people from New Orleans and all different kinds of psychic connections to try to be more oracular and channel the messages right from the spirit being right in the place where she was born and died and lived.
Wow.
So that's what I'm doing, and that's where I am right now. We're in the Swamp Magic Kitchen area, my kitchen witching area, which I'm going to do a little dinner with ghost show right after this. So we're starting that because in case you didn't know, and in case your traditions don't flow that way, in New Orleans they do. Dead or hungry, dead or thirsty. So we feed them, and we give
Mhm.
them drink, and we bring them gifts and all that jazz.
Mhm.
So
Very good. Very good.
what I do is like called Voodoo Paranormal because I call it that because it's a combination of old school and spiritual ways mixed in with the more modern equipment. To some spirits can communicate one way better than the other, so we let them have all options.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very good. So, from what I understand, you have a beautiful museum,
I have
and
a 200-year-old building,
mhm.
comes complete with ghosts, and then it's got all my stuff in there too. So I have the place came with ghosts. I have my haunted collection, and I take my work home with me.
Mhm.
For 30 years, I've been touring graveyards at night and haunted houses and all those kinds of things. So I have an entourage sometimes.
Now, you said that it comes with ghosts. Can you tell us a little bit about the history, before you turned it into a museum, anything like that about it?
Sure. Actually, I am the third voodoo priest that has had the building, which I think is an interesting and
Yeah.
forgotten part on its own. Why that's still, such
Mm.
an attraction in the area. It was Priestess Miriam's Voodoo spiritual temple prior to me, and 7.5 years ago or so, close to 8, there was a fire, which kind of made it unusable for a while. Had to do a rebuild, but I had always loved her rituals at her courtyard, and it was just sitting there dying, and it seems like I was pulled in by the spirits themselves to come in. It was not. I had a form of a haunted museum behind the Voodoo Museum pre-Katrina,
Mm.
Mm.
small.
Okay.
I had wanted to reopen but could never find the suitable spot or time for it. And I had pretty much given up on finding it. And then this popped up.
Mm.
So it is a 200-year-old building. It's got incredible Creole architecture with a fabulous courtyard and many of the outbuildings, the boys' quarters, the servants' quarters, the carriage house, the stables. It used to have an outside kitchen. So it's a large complex, which makes it accessible for me to do rituals. I do a lot of voodoo weddings. In fact, I've got, as I said, 2 on Friday the 13th,
Mhm.
coming up, and a lot more this month. So workshops, rituals. I do a small paracon yearly on June 23rd at the summer solstice, which is a big St. John's Eve voodoo day here every year. But I mix it with the Swamp Magic Fest and a paracon. So I have enough room for all that. It's a huge courtyard, and the building is many small rooms, so I do different things in each room. So
Mm.
I have a
Yeah.
seance parlor, so we do a seance and then followed by a ghost hunt after. Then I do tours on the streets and then a ghost hunt after, or just a ghost hunt, or just a seance, or the full rituals or making voodoo dolls, and I have a big full shop too. So it's got all these different areas in it in French Quarter. So it came with a lot of ghosts. Many children ghosts follow me. It had a few children. I brought some extras with my haunted collection because I have a haunted poor box that came out of Mother Cabrini's orphanage.
Mm.
I found at a yard sale at the oldest building in town, some say, a week before Katrina. And I bought everything they had. Told the guy I'd come next week with more cash, and next week was Katrina, so bye bye to all that. One of the
Mm.
things that I got was the poor box from the orphanage, and that came with a lot of children's spirits. And so they were at my house, and I didn't know how many people were at my personal haunted house, which we also go to. Um, how many of them were attached to that orphanage poor box until I moved it out.
Mm.
A lot of spirits went with it. So now they're my foster kids, but they're at the museum. So we got, and then we have lots of spirits that came with the place, some people that have lived there in the past, some children that live there. And then there's a very somewhat dark tale, a more modern ghost story that's left its imprint upon it. And that's a story of Zach and Addie, which was a terrible murder suicide right after Katrina.
Mm.
So there's modern ghosts, there's colonial ghosts, there's everything in between. For 200 years of life and death is definitely imprinted in the building, and it wants to be told. It wants to talk. And sometimes it wants to be left alone, just like us. Sometimes they want to talk. Sometimes they want to be left alone. But I believe that spirits can heal in the afterlife or the interlife, and as long if they have someone there that's working, running to jump out and think that their job is to banish the spirits or to, on the one hand, or to cross them over into the light, both of which takes is set up by someone else than usual paranormal people. Um, so I do more of a shamanic approach, where I talk to them.
Mhm.
I pray with them. I play music for them. We see what their needs are, and they could do some of the growth in the in between time, as opposed to having to be reborn to have all the trauma again. So we hope to heal some of the trauma in the middle time.
Mhm.
So that's what we're at. So, and we don't allow any provoking, of the spirits. And we try not to. Maybe somebody's nasty and tries it, but we try to calm all those things down if we can and communicate. It's about spirit
Yeah.
communication. And we do it in different ways, like mediumship or electronic connections, whatever whatever the people want to do, we try. And it's like an ongoing investigation. So I've been in there with those spirits for 8 years.
Hmm.
So, and the ones in my house for like 25 years, and the ones in town my whole life. Bringing it back to what we said before, I'm born and raised in New Orleans. They woke me up. They started this in the middle of the night. I was sleeping. I was a kid. So, yeah, my family's been here since 1718. I'm very much beyond a local and a culture bearer, as well as historian here. So I think I've heard that spirits recognize you for your bloodline, and I've been proving it over the years. So they started it. I continued it. Now I find it my job to record their history, and that's why I opened the museum. That and to make a sanctuary if any of the spirits wanted a place to record what they have to say, because ghosts are our history. So that's my background. That's the place.
That's
But we're right in the French Quarter, and then the house of Marie Laveau, or the cottage that Marie Laveau was born in and did most of her work, is right where I am now. There's a photo on top, but the foundation is there. The spirit of land is there. The courtyard is there, and her spirit and her children and children's children's spirit are here too. So it's been an interesting ride. Please join on YouTube, because if it's the open gates, it's live seance, you may hear something or feel something, and you definitely can experience it along, because it's not, you know, I don't know, it's not really edited. Maybe I add a couple pictures and things, but what goes on and how we connect is something that you get to connect on. So I want to hear what you have to say too.
Yeah.
sounds
Do you
wonderful.
have what are some of your favorable, favorite haunted items that you have in your museum?
I have a very old wheelchair from the abandoned and very haunted charity hospital about a mile away. It is a 1,000,000 square foot abandoned hospital since Katrina. The and even though it was built around 1938, the wheelchair was from prior to that, a very old wheelchair. And they were still using it. It was a free hospital. It was a place of miracles long ago, a great trauma center, and it was free. And there was politics that closed it down. So there's a lot of corruption in there now, spiritually, and all the noises I'm hearing from your end. You've got a haunted. Do you have haunted microphone, or do you have haunted back noises?
Well, I have a haunted house, and that's where I'm at. But I guess you're hearing that.
No, I don't know. It sounds more like something with your microphone.
Hmm.
Wow, 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 like that. Do your ghost do that? Do your ghost do that? I mean, as long as it's not something I'm doing that I can fix, but I should.
Ah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Hmm.
We're going to tell everyone out there that what they're hearing is ghosts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm an advocate for spirits' rights. I'm not one that thinks that we should run in fear. I think that we should get to know each other and see what we can do and develop a cooperation. And you don't break out the big guns unless you have to, you know?
Hmm. Well, my house is from 1900, so it was finally finished in 1900, I should say.
Right.
And so the original owners passed away here, and so they brought a few family friend, friends over, and they're just hanging around the whole house. I keep telling them, "Can you do dishes, please? It'd be nice."
I've asked, I have gotten them to turn on the dishwasher, but you know,
Yeah.
they didn't stack them or anything. But they turned the dishwasher on. So
Hey,
Yeah.
it was something.
I had some that fixed some broken things, like broken jewelry. I have one in my house. It's kind of like a plumber, and he helps sometimes. I still have to call it the plumbers occasionally, but he'll do the minor thing. So I do have some helpers. I do.
Good. Good for you.
Yeah, I mean,
I need.
I can't count on them every time, but there have been incidents. I have also gotten gifts from some of my ghosts. So sometimes they do what they can. What they can afford or move around is an individual type of a thing. But they can and they try. And here, yeah, there's a few manifestations that pop up here because there's no one else here but me. So things, as usual, they disappear more than they appear. But both happen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my personal house is haunted. It's about 1890 also. And then this house definitely has so much history. And of course, the place where I have my haunted museum and lots of the spots on the tours and the cemeteries. We're a very haunted town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have been. We were called the most haunted city long before paranormal became as popular as it is today. I've been doing these shows on TV about haunted New Orleans and voodoo for 30 years. You know, so this is before the reality shows started and before all that. So this has been on the map for a long time. And there's stories recorded in the 1800s, you know, so it's not just now. There's generations of people that have memories of. There's again. Hello.
You said you were a priestess. Can you like
And
talk a little bit more about that?
by
How
the
you got
way,
started? A
by the
priestess?
way, okay. By the way, it's definitely an echo from your microphone. Okay, when you
Yeah.
talk, you're major echoing on my end.
Hmm.
Just so you know,
Uh, I don't
I
know
don't.
how I can fix that.
I don't have a separate microphone.
I'm doing it from my phone. I'm doing it from my phone, so it might just be me then.
Yeah, but we can
Sorry, guys.
edit this part out. We'll go on with it's the ghost, but I just wanted to let you know if it might be a problem when you do playback because it's pretty.
Right. Well, let me see. I'll check. Yep, it's her. Uh, All right. I just muted you, and that's what happened. Okay. Thank you. We'll try to
Hopefully,
figure it out.
all that's usable.
Yeah. No, I,
Pretend this goes, so whatever.
yeah, people think it's ghost.
Yeah.
They're
Hello. So where were we?
the
How you got involved in voodoo and you became a priestess?
Ah, well, growing up here, there were always voodoo signs and people I know's grandmothers and family members with altars that would show us things. You know, it was around me. It was part of the lifestyle. Voodoo dolls were at certain people's houses. I'd find things on tombs, and we spent a lot of time in graveyards as a kid visiting family members. So there was always something that I had to say, why, you know. And the more I kept looking around, the more I found the answers in voodoo. So let's say I've always been intrigued with
Mhm.
it. And my sister has been involved with it maybe a little bit longer than me, but I've always had the spirits and the ghosts. And um, when I tried to find out certain beliefs of why this would happen or why that would happen, it made sense when I found the answer in voodoo. And I grew up, people don't realize that New Orleans is not a southern city. New Orleans was a displaced Latin Catholic whose pretty much archdiocese was Cuba. You know, so we had a
I'm Cuban. I know.
great connection to the Caribbean and the Yucatan
Mm.
across the way.
Mhm.
And some call us the gateway to the Caribbean or the northernmost Caribbean city. So there was always this interflux. So I was always around Hispanic, Latin, Catholic, Hispanic, and mixed blood people who were very much here for hundreds of years. You
Mhm.
know, so I grew up with it. It's part of the culture here. I identified certain things. I didn't know why we had this custom or why we had this custom, and figured it out from my friends and their grandparents and other teachers and coworkers, let's say, that a lot of it had to do with voodoo. So spirit again pushed me towards initiation, and I did, and I followed through. And it's like continuing education because there are different levels that you don't have to, but that you can acquire. And I have went out of the way to find or them to find me the individual influences that were the most strong in New Orleans voodoo found their way to me, like the Celtic influence. I'm part of I have twinned in my alliance of my voodoo house some Celtic old religion high up depths. And then I also have a little bit of Tibetan influence of a night priest in that. So I brought that in, and then I initiated into the Congo and Palo, which the Congo religion was very much a part of New Orleans voodoo, as well as was told by Spirit I had also initiated Haitian voodoo, which had a little bit of touch, involved here too. So trying to understand it all better and bring it all back together has, I guess, had me meet the right people to initiate in the different strains to get the magic I needed to regroup and rebuild New Orleans voodoo, which is forgotten by many. There's a lot of people that practice voodoo in New Orleans, but they don't practice New Orleans voodoo. They'll salute Marie Laveau or say hi over here, but they don't focus on that. And most of them are not really from here. And those that do focus on New Orleans voodoo are also not from here and don't live here. So I'm inside the box, and now I'm literally inside the box from Willow's old house, and I'm wanting it to talk and see what it has to say and see what's changed. Spirits will talk to you and tell you how to fix their.
Mhm.
I have found that for years, start channeling and saying something that I don't know why, and it's because the spirit's history was written wrong. And then after I say it or channel it, someone will tell me, and I'll say, "No, I didn't say that." And they say, "Oh, yes, you did." I'm like, "No." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then the next day or within the week, I will find a piece of documentation and another person that has some information, an old forgotten book, a diary that verifies it. So they want their story told, and
Yeah.
I'm the mouthpiece for that. For here, maybe not for everywhere, but for here.
It sounds like a wonderful, wonderful path, and
It's
I'm
definitely a calling. It's definitely my
yes,
calling
yeah,
to
and
preserve some of the customs, the cultures, the stories. So much was lost after Katrina.
yeah,
15 years ago, we lost a lot of our people, our residents, our culture, our history, and ever since then, I've been on fire to try to, record it and bring it back to life because a lot of it simply died.
right.
It's very sad.
It is, but I'm glad that you have taken that up and bring back that history. That's the true rich history,
Mhm.
not
Definitely.
not a watered down version, but the true
No.
true history.
I'm a trying.
You're
The
succeeding, girl. You're succeeding, I
with,
say.
with sound bites and shortened messages becoming all the rage, it's harder to get the richness. People don't. I mean, some people want to read a lot, but a lot of people just want to. They don't have time to get in depth. But I've always been a more VIP cultural kind of person with people and give them an experience that's more personal as opposed to touristy
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
magical and voodoo and paranormal, whether they like it or not. There's going to be a supernatural edge as well as history because there was a supernatural reasoning behind many decisions that were made in this town. Whether they prove to be false later on matter not. I mean, these decisions were made over supernatural assumptions, some real and some unreal, just like today.
Mm-hmm. So, now that you have undertaken this and you're getting messages, have they spoken to you about anything that you didn't have knowledge of or something that was brand new to you?
Sure. Yeah. Um, I guess I mean I was said that before, but maybe you're meaning it in a different way. That the spirits will tell me something that is not knowledge, and I will say it,
Right.
and people will tell me I say it, even though I don't know I say it. I'm channeling it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I prove that it's real.
Right.
But I
Uh,
said it first, usually, not always. But I was saying things first that I did not, like a sentence here, a sentence there. I mean, or I just had you might say, a hunch,
mm-hmm.
that something was off. I mean, I knew something was off about a story.
Mm-hmm.
Something was wrong about it. and I was pretty much knew which way to go, but synchronistically, mystically, whatever, I would find the evidence. So it's like a psychic research, and I believe the spirits are with me. Same thing with Marie Laveau. When I originally wrote the first part of the book, which was 8 years ago, um, she just wouldn't let me go. Same thing here. I go in trance so quick when I'm type or do automatic writing or something that I can't get like the book written because I'm getting stuff, feelings, this, that are embedded here out. So it's been actually hard. And she did that to me last time too. She kept channeling memories and thoughts and, aggravations and things like that. So yes, there has been a lot of things that came through that it's not that I didn't know, it's that I didn't think were as important or as focused on of an issue, that I might have skimmed over and missed,
Right.
focused on something else. But things, let's say the importance, what was important or what is important for her to get out there um, is different than the way I wrote it before. I mean, the history's going to stay the same, more or less. But yeah, there's some interesting things that have come up that I'm continuing to research. But
Okay.
with with you and you, like every Thursday so far, it's been every Thursday I try to drop a new YouTube thing, and that's at Bloody Mary, New Orleans. Last week I started to try to put it out on podcast. I don't know if it translates as well because we're sitting around a table holding hands trying to do things. There's a lot of silence. I might edit that a little differently, but I have a couple of seances and a couple of research back and forth with people, psychic things, ghost box, all of those types of recordings that you could go watch. And those are all right now for this season, all inside the house of Marie Laveau on St. Anne Street. So there's a whole bunch of episodes there, and they're also the podcast is called Afterlives. It's a supernatural podcast, and it's Bloody Mary, New Orleans as well.
Mm,
So
wonderful,
you
wonderful.
can be along with me. You can psychically can't talk, but you can psychically connect.
Yes.
When
Now,
did you first discover? Oh, go ahead, Glenda.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
When did you first discover your gifts that you can tap into spirits and communicate with them?
Well, I don't think I didn't look at them as gifts for a very long time. So when I was a kid, it was just stuff that happened. It was just I saw little fairy beings. There were certain apparitions that I saw at home at night in the room. I was overly comfortable in the forest and connecting with trees and nature and the bayous. I mean, I grew up born on the bayou, definitely born on the bayou, and connecting with all of the energies out at, let's say, my grandpa's camp, the alligators, and going fishing. I mean, even the New Orleans is a city, but New Orleans is still a swamp underneath it all, and not very far away. There is a swamp that wasn't cut down, forest that wasn't turned into a neighborhood. And of course, there was more of that closer to us when I was younger, as the town even expands more. So it was my whole life always. I don't know if I looked at it as communication as much as that I was just paying attention. It was all oneness. I don't know. Um, there was a form of communication, but I don't know if I looked at it that way. And I didn't look at it as, okay, I'm going out to be psychic now, mom. I would just go out and connect. And then at night, if I would wake up or, I've always had a lot of visions and dreams and things like that. And then as I got older, what was I thought was angels and saints and all these spiritual things you heard about in church. All of a sudden, it got a little different when I was an adolescent. So I was like, oh, okay, I better go see what the hell this is all about. Try to figure out what I could do to get things more in line. But I pretty much naturally, from the very beginning, no matter what came to me, good or bad, and usually it was good, I knew not to fear and would tell them what I sought to do, and they'd listen. So, stop this. I'm tired. Go away. You know, I was like, yeah, I'll see tomorrow if I got time. I'm not sure. Even as 11 years old, 12 years old. And at 9, 8, 9, and 10, I would ask my big brother to take me to the haunted roads that I still bring people to today, to hear this story, to go find this entity, to go look for the loup-garou, the swamp werewolf, or the different creatures that were in New Orleans, or the spirit of Mona Lisa. So there were certain things that one always heard about, even before internet, about different areas in town, different haunted places in town, different old roads, different forests. The Crunch Road, for example. So there were areas out in the more rural parts of town that we would always go to know that there were spirits and occasional monsters, you know.
Mm,
So
mm,
and I like the nature spirit guides too.
Yeah.
I just kind of took it as what people did. I didn't know it was very special. And then when it got weirder, let's say, at adolescence, I quickly found out the hard way not to talk to everyone about this, you
mm.
know,
Okay.
Yeah.
especially because they went and told the nuns, and they weren't very nice about it, you know. So there was some like conflict that occurred, which made me research deeper into other and alternative beliefs that were in my
Mm,
culture and surrounding me instead of just the Catholic Church, you know.
Right.
yeah. My family grew up Catholic, and I mean, and not super practicing, but Catholic. So it was difficult for me too growing up. So I could totally see how that would that would be hard communicating that with other people.
The Catholics are much more open to mysticism than than the Protestants are,
Yeah, they are.
because there is ritual and there's novenas and there's intermediary spirits, and there's a lot of training I got as a Catholic, which I didn't, realize until later as an adult, was very important in mysticism. It was very important to connecting and learning ritual aspects and things. I didn't appreciate it at the time because you got tired of stand up, sit down, genuflect, this, that, but you got tired of it as a kid,
Mhm.
but it was very helpful having that experience later. The religion got less mystical as time went on, too, from what I hear from people inside the church. It was quite different in the 60s, 70s than it was in the 90s and 2000s. There was a lot of loss, actually, that was more ritual and spirit oriented. However, you do learn something from it, and all the stories about the powers and things that the saints did, I thought that was supposed to be like anybody could do it, and it is like anybody could do it, but they don't want to tell you that. And when I start talking about it, that's when the nuns got a little ooh. And my mother was a nun before she married my dad. She didn't give me a hard time for that, for other things, sure, but I was born and raised with a lot of religion around me, a lot of novenas, and a lot of stations of the cross, and a lot of constant doing those things with my mother and my sister.
Oh.
So, in a
Yes.
way, it was good that you went through that because then now it helped you get ready for whatever rituals you have decided to do.
Right, right. Oh, it's definitely a training, whether you realize it or not. I mean, there's all sorts of things in the Catholic religion that was borrowed from previous mystic cultures of where they came in,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I identify that. So there was a heavy influence of Catholicism on voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
Like Latin Catholic areas, they were forced Catholicized.
Mm-hmm.
So they blended in with the saint statues and the candle burning and the novenas and the ritual promenade, and the ceremonial aspects were conducive to blending the religions. So I noticed that a lot at people's grandmother's houses. Like, well, that's looks like Catholic. I saw the saints and was like, okay, so they were, trying to understand and being tranced out in front of them quite a lot, which is so yeah. But also people forget that Catholics were also a little bit influenced by the voodoo as well. And there was a folk Catholicism here, as we were almost an abandoned colony with no true jurisdiction except far away in Cuba, but close enough that we could say we had some money, that a folk Catholicism did develop. And there was a great mixture of the voodoos and the Catholics. Like Marie Laveau, she was a devout Catholic. She was a yellow fever nurse with the church. That was our big plague here. She was an incredible healer. She'd go to mass all the time. She had saints all over the place, like I do here at the altars. This is my swamp magic room, so it's got the moss and the stuff, but up there it's got the saints and everything else. And I show you a lot of that as we go through on in that YouTube thing, in that YouTube show. So you should try to subscribe.
Yes,
Fun stuff
yes,
on it. And then
definitely.
I do a lot of personal healings and readings and seance in a spiritism form. That's the French Kardec version of spiritualism, which was active here and heavily mixed in with voodoo at the time of the 19th century too.
Mm, very interesting. Very interesting. So it seems like it's a perfect place to showcase that there is no true one way
Oh
because
gosh,
everything is also
I wish people would stop
mm,
fighting between the my way is the only way. I mean, we're having yet another war right now.
yes, yes.
My God, what they just can't balance there. So sad, just so sad.
It is sad because we all came from the same place. We all go back to the same place. Like,
There's one source, many paths.
right.
Stop fighting amongst each other. I just, why cannot humans learn from their mistakes? Why? You know? Now, there's many old cultures and shamanic beliefs, and I'm in a very shamanic system,
Mhm.
that say the ancestors are the way to heal. Do you remember that they're still with you and they're part of you and they flow through you?
Yeah.
And to contact the ancestors not yet born who are rarely talked about, who are right there in your stream as well. The ones in the back push you, the other ones pull you, and you have to do something here and now, not wallow in pain or your own problems, but to try to move forward and best you can so it heals all of us. And if we pay attention to all of the strength behind us and strength ahead, we will be strong and pull it forward. And I don't know. I believe that, and I believe ghosts are part of that.
Hmm. Very true. Very true. And
But yeah, we have to
it's
stop fighting each other, killing each other. I mean, life is tough enough without that.
yeah, it is. It is tough. And if people would just stop for a minute and just breathe, it would be.
Trying to connect,
Yeah, exactly.
connect with everything around us, with the world. I mean, I try to teach that to everyone before we do everything. We do breathing, we connect down into the
Hmm.
earth, up into the sky, through the trees. We're here at a very important ley line, and we're here over running water everywhere in town. I mean, the swamp was 80% of the city historically, and it didn't go away. It just got pumped under. So we've got pumping stations that constantly have a flow of water underneath us, which is the spirit's highway. This is a very living area, which is why people feel things here they don't usually feel in other places. Many mundane people say they feel what they don't usually believe in here, which after you heard that 10,000 times, it's not just somebody saying it. uh, this is a very living place, and there is a spirit of place, of which wherever your place is, you need to get in rhythm with. So that's important too. It's not just ghosts. I say that because it's simple, spirits, ghosts, but it's multidimensional beings. It's many different, so many different life forms. And for those of you out there that are so into this, I'm going to say it anyway. And it's not hashtag it's a demon. Yeah. not, like get over it. It doesn't have to be dark and scary in order to be a ghost. And there's a lot of nasty things out there that are not evil, and their sheer power can destroy you just as well, but they're not evil. They're not demons. But I mean,
Some people are quick to say everything's a demon and get possessed every place we go to investigate. But yeah.
It's a demon. No, it's not. That's all. It's evil. No, it's not. But if you want it to be, if you focus on that, if that's all you ever talk about, you will be surrounded with it. And so there. That's my take on that. And there might not be demons, but there are many other things, parasites, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up because
We
Sarah,
know a couple of parasites too.
There's lots of those.
Pulls out booklet.
Vampires, but not the cool kind.
Yeah, not the cool kind.
Bottom feeder kind that are just kind of there.
Yes.
Where are you located?
I am in South Texas. Lower than you guys. I'm at the border, basically.
Okay.
And I'm in Pennsylvania.
So you're total opposite areas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Completely.
Yeah.
But I love New Orleans. The few times I went. Actually, I went, was it last year or was it the year before when you all had another little hurricane?
2 years. But it wasn't really
here.
It wasn't in New Orleans. It was in Louisiana, but it wasn't
in
New Orleans. It was in Houma.
Uh-huh.
Area, Houma, farther, about an hour and a half away. It might have gotten the touch tip of it in Kenner by the airport. We got I think a stray little pop-off storms that came in, but the hurricane didn't hit New Orleans per se. I mean, we got a little wind and things, but it wasn't the main structure. Just like Katrina didn't hit New Orleans. Yeah. That wasn't the problem. It was the next day when all the water backed up.
Yeah.
First that got us.
Mm-hmm.
So that did not happen this time. There was no flooding. There was no rain issues. There was some, stray, as I said, off wind issues or something. But there was no flooding, no heavy rain, no levee breaks. So that was a really good test.
Yeah.
Well, I did a lot of rituals. Oh my God. I did so many hurricane rituals the year before. I was finally said, okay, just freaking bring it. Okay. I did like 7 in a row. I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this, y'all. And I may have reduced it, but I did lots of them. And we did rituals that year too. I mean, I do rituals every year, anti-hurricane prevention. And then when something comes to the Gulf Coast, I try to disintegrate or do things backwards to dissipate. I don't try to redirect it. I try to dissipate it, slow, So that is what I do. And I use a lot of techniques, some techniques that Marie Laveau and others used at her time period. And one of them would be the St. John's Eve ritual that I do annually every year, where we do this feeding spirits and rebaptism in the bayou. Excuse me. That is the same time of year I do the NOLA Paracon at that date of June 23rd, which is solstice time weekend usually with that. And that was also an anti-hurricane beginning of the season ritual to appease the spirits, to ask for protection and distraction. Over here, don't look over there. So there is spiritual work that you work with the force of nature, including storm spirits, storm energies, as well as just ghost hunts. It's not just all that. And sometimes the spirits, they want to help you and the town that they help build. So they have what I call architects, of which Marie Laveau is one, as well as an ascended master and priestess and patron saint, all of those things. And Voodoo sometimes calls them the Loa, but in the old days, they were just called the Voodoos. So she would be watching over a town that she had her heart and soul in. Her tomb in St. Louis was the #1 visitor in the country, where people made pilgrimages or legend trips, as some people call them, in order to still get miracles from her beyond the grave. You cannot leave offerings or go there and do what you used to do. So people have started now bringing things back to this house in front of it. So you'll see different gifts and offerings and prayer requests. And for 30 years, I was bringing prayer requests to her actual tomb for people's healings, or let's say to get them a job or to get them in a school. And you're not allowed to do that anymore. So I'm inside here and still helping.
Very good. Very good. So have you, because you keep saying, the background from Cuba and all that. I'm Cuban, so I know about the voodoo there and
Apollo and this and that. Yeah.
right.
When did you
So,
leave?
oh, I left 1970.
So that was late.
Yeah, yeah,
And most of the people left in the 60s, didn't they?
yeah,
It's been
yeah.
hard for you to get out.
It was. It was only my father and I, and then a year, 14 months later, they let my mother and my brother out.
My
So,
my best friends growing up, most of them were Cuban
mm,
or some form of Caribbean. There was so many Cubans that came here in the 1960s. So grammar school time is when I met, would hang out with a lot of different people, but so many Cubans. um, you know, well, so I grew up with the banana soup and different things. I was like, I don't want to eat the banana soup. And that was very much part of the quiz. A lot of the cuisine here was very similar anyway. The
right.
language wasn't, but we got to know each other pretty well. I mean, I ended up marrying a Hispanic man the first time on Friday the 15th because for them that was a good day, right?
Yes, it is
Friday,
a good day for me. So,
yeah, so true. And yes, a lot of people from Cuba either went to Florida or New Orleans. You
hmm
know, those were close enough ports, but there was older and historic connection with the fact that for a short time period, Cuba was the only Latin Catholic area that had an archdiocese that we could connect with, since
right.
we were an abandoned one from France and Spain, too far away. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so there was a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Did,
That's
were
right.
you were you afraid of Santeria and Palo growing up?
No, no. I um I actually have ancestral. Uh,
Sure, probably.
yeah, yeah. No, I do, and it just
Maybe the kids
actually
jump right in on it, right? They don't. I mean,
no.
kids go to it since age. I've got a Puerto Rican house that I'm a part of now, and their kids have grabbed into it since they were 4 or 5 years old, and sometimes while they're in the belly. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And I just found out actually that my grandfather was very big into it, and I'm like, why did nobody tell me this before?
Well, I mean, I guess depending on if he still was towards the end, or maybe had to hide it more towards the end. I
He
don't
had to
know.
hide it. He had to
Yeah,
hide it when, yeah, when I was born. He had to hide it.
yeah. So things change. Same thing here. Unlike what people think, it was kind of open before the Civil War. And
Mm-hmm.
a little bit after, and there was public things going on, and everybody knew about it. And it didn't really go underground until almost totally underground, well, halfway underground until the turn of the 20th century. But it was too late. It had already grew up side by side with our culture. It was already in the customs and the food and the gestures and the belief system
Right.
in a good way, you
hmm
know. But after that, everybody kind of hid anything to do with pre-Civil War in the closet, you know. French, for example, was made illegal to speak. So a lot of things about the culture were hidden, including some of them, but not in 1800, not in 1700, not in 1800s, not and just around early for a good 25 years in the early 20th century. It took a back seat, didn't go away, just wasn't as overt as it was before.
Right. Well, sometimes you have to hide those things because of being afraid or being mocked or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
you call it's all superstitions of that you're backwards or you're this, and then of course it was tied in with racial
Right.
equality things at the early 20th century. That's there was strangely more, there was different freedoms available before the Civil War to some people here. And then um, after that, they didn't separate the classes
Mm.
anymore. So Marie Laveau was a free woman of color. She was born free. Her mother and grandmother were freed slaves. Her grandmother built the original house in the 1700s. So there was different things going on here in New Orleans, but this middle class, this free people of color class, it didn't survive after the Civil War. One drop made you all in the same boat, and people ran off and hid, and that's when the closet things start coming here. Other areas it went into a closet earlier because it wasn't allowed, but here for some reason it was allowed earlier and not later. So
Mm.
develops differently, but and then spiritualism. I don't know how spiritualism affected in Cuba. It did in other Latin Catholic areas.
It did. It did. Yeah, everybody had to hide everything.
Even
They,
spiritual.
unless you were either very Catholic or very Protestant, then you could participate in, in that.
And then, of course, unless you were Castro, because he certainly dabbled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had his whole entourage.
But, let's face it, he could do no wrong, and whatever he did, he did. That's it. He was the head honcho. So, and if you didn't like it, he would make sure that you
It went
didn't
away.
live. It went away. Yes, one way or another.
I wanted to ask you about your Paracon you say you have in June. Can you tell us more about that and how people can participate?
Yes, June 23rd, whether it's the weekend before or the weekend after that, depends on the year. And it's usually several different days of it's ghost hunts, ghost lectures, book signings, all kinds of different things. And there's a smaller portion during the day, and then a larger portion during the day that you can wander around. And then there's evening activities, smaller group for ghost hunts and things. So I usually do that once a year, but I do ghost hunts every day of the year or another, as far as what we do at the museum itself. But the Paracon's June 23rd. And what else do we have? And then I try to do some kind of special event monthly, as well as my weekly tours and events and private things. And I can marry you, and I can baptize you, and I can bury you too, because I'm a full-rounded legal voodoo priestess. And yeah, look for me on BloodyMaryNewOrleans.com. Look for me at Bloody Mary New Orleans on YouTube, and Bloody Mary NOLA, which is initials for New Orleans, Louisiana. Bloody Mary NOLA on YouTube and on TikTok, where I'm pretty big. And I've got a great new store on there with ghost hunting kits and Voodoo Paranormal and, I don't know, books and all kinds of things. So definitely look me up when you're in New Orleans, and look me up before you come in New Orleans, because you can watch some of the things that we're doing with different mediums and witches and ghost hunters and shamans from all over the country who are coming in to give their input to what's going on here at the Laveau Cottage with me.
I'm dying to take your tour and look at your museum. I've been telling Glenda, even before we had you on, I was like, I want to go to New Orleans. Like my sole purpose is to see your museum, and there's so many wonderful things I want to see there. But like, I was like, I need to go to her museum. I want to take her tour. I want to meet her.
Tours, and I am focusing more on, a lot of private custom things. So I'm focusing more as time goes on, to work differently and smaller groups and more intense, because there's a lot of, especially after COVID, oh my God, so many, startups and tour companies that meet on the corners. You can't even keep up with them. It's bump into them. So I try to keep it a more focused quality experience and unique.
Very good. Very good. So, is there anything else that you want to tell the audience about yourself?
No, I
Tours?
mean, that was my closing is, come to New Orleans, be nice to the spirits, feed the dead, and take care of your ancestors, because they're in your bloodline. Give them a cup of coffee in the morning, wake up with them, ask them to help guide you still, and you help them, they help you. So keep in touch. That's what I say. Keep in touch.
Okay.
Thank you
Well,
so much for
thank
doing
you.
this with us. We
Yes.
appreciate you.
I hope to see the show someday, and I hope to see you in New Orleans, all of you.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And please hold. And thank you to the audience. Thank you, Sarah, Moon Girl. Wonderful as always. And we gotta talk to these ghosts sometimes. Okay. See you guys. We love you all.